thank you everyone for coming today and joining in the ceremony. We're going to get started. If the Boy Scouts would come forward and do the lead us in Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chaplain, here, lead us in prayer. Uncover. Uncover. O God of hope, we bow our heads in thankfulness for the victories Thou hast granted us. To us and to those people who have united with us to stamp out the evils of aggression, intolerance, and greed. We beseech Thee to bring the blessings of understanding to the families and friends in this and in other lands of those who have given their lives that men may be free. Grant, O God, that those closest to the fallen may mingle the pain of their losses with the ennobling light of sacrifice for civilization, sacrifice for a better world, for this and other generations yet unborn. Grant us too, O God, the courage to so live with the family of nations around the world that the end of strife will be the beginning of enduring peace. Grant us patience in planning with our fellow men and women a world in which nations may resolve their differences by peaceful means. Touch, Thou, the souls of people in every land with the enduring light of wisdom, so they may form a brotherhood which will strive to further the arts of peace under laws and ethics blessed by Thy love. Grant us now Thy continued blessings upon unity and strength that makes victories possible in war, that we may win greater victories of peace. Amen.
Amen.
Cover. On this day, Veterans Day, we are commemorating the services of veterans of all wars. We remember how men and women set aside their civilian pursuits to serve their nation's cause, defending the freedom of mankind and preserving our precious American heritage. We believe our strength on the field of battle, on the supply lines which nourish our armed might, lay in the justice of our cause against the forces of evil. We believe our determination made us better warriors because we fought with our minds, our hearts, as well as our bodies. We recognize service to our country, and her cause does not end with the termination of military service. We continue our endeavors in behalf of an honorable world of peace with a feeling of profound gratitude to God and to the men and women who gave their lives as their part of the cost of this noblest of causes. Out of the blood and sweat we learned and of purpose, sacrifice, tolerance, bravery, and discipline. These are solid foundation stones upon which a great nation is built. In our continuing quest for an honorable world peace, we must cultivate these virtues. Diana LaPierre, our auxiliary president.
The waging of war involves more than just the combatants who fight to the death on the field of battle. The fighting forces begin at the fireside in the hometowns. The repercussions of war's terrible brutality have chilled the heart and dimmed the hopes and dreams of many of loved ones left behind on the home front. While the horrors of the battlefield may not have been our experience, we have lived with terrifying loneliness created to answer an aggressor's challenge. In waging war, we have moved forward with unity of purpose, which made us strong, forgetting pettiness, egotism, and pride. Our hearts beat in tune with those in other nations fighting for freedom and dignity and opportunity of mankind. In our constant quest for an honorable world peace, there is a need for unity of purpose if we truly are to move toward a brighter tomorrow.
First Vice Commander, Ryan English.
War has taught us the lesson of obedience to command. The game is more than the player, and the ship is more than the crew. There's greater discipline we must now pursue if we are to preserve this virtue of obedience in our quest for an honorable world peace. That is obedience to the laws we ourselves make. The voluntary discipline of citizenship. Under our system of government, we may change the laws by majority rule. We may persuade our neighbors to new theories or new courses. We may advocate in free elections the choice of veterans or planters. As good citizens, we follow the choice of the majority, whether that choice be the individuals or not. This is the virtue of discipline which must be ours in peace. This is the lesson we must learn at home, in school, and on the playing fields, in organizations, and in the community, and the nation. It is the lesson of voluntary obedience to the decisions of the majority. We must not be unmindful either of the conclusions of other peoples with whom we have joined in the quest for an honorable world peace. This is the higher order of discipline.
Thank you, Brian. She beat me to it.
The hurts of war fall alike upon those who wear the uniform, no matter how they may differ in race, creed, or culture. Those who fight together suffer together to achieve a common aim. In the similarity of battle dress, there is a common denominator, the common purpose, the sharing of danger and suffering, which brings in time of war a tolerance which adds strength to the cause. As we put aside the brown and blue and green fabrics that made us one people on the battlefields, we can hold in our minds that tolerance we have achieved. In tolerance, there is progress toward a better and happier world.
Courage is one of the virtues born of war, the courage of individuals in the face of danger, and the courage of nations to protect the weak and punish the aggressor. There is bravery to be shown in peace as well. May we recapture the courage which turned the wilderness into cities that bound men together under government. We can turn slums into comfortable homes, turn uncertainty into certainty. We can reach new heights of civilization and opportunity for the men and women of this nation if we have the courage to expect and work for the better way of life. There can be romance in this challenge also. The bravery that fights for political, social, economic, and spiritual gains may be more difficult to practice, may be unsung when achieved, but it is all the more worth striving for.
If there be, whoa, I'll stand back. If there be glory in war, it is almost incredible spirit which it engenders. Those who offered their lives sacrificed their all with magnificent abandon. Heroism becomes contagious. Yet too, in warfare, greed and brutality are epidemic. Too often it is these latter which persist in peace that follows. Let us strive to see the same spirit of self-sacrifice is cultivated in peace as it has been exhibited in war. It behooves us to rear new standards of success, to inspire youth in peace as youth was inspired in war. Public honor must be given where public honor is due, not to the manipulator of a market, the seeker after profit, power, or position, but rather let us honor the heroes of science who alleviate human suffering and carry to greater heights the standards of civilization. Let us honor those who in public service seek not how much they may secure from the nation, but how much they can give. Let us honor those who devote their lives to that education which will lead our children on to live and laugh and learn and love, as we only dreamed of doing. Let us honor those veterans who carry into ordinary affairs of life a noble idealism and sincere capacity for self-devotion. Let us translate the devotion of war into a devotion of peace. Let us will to live as well as die for our country.
In time of peace, we can use the ennobling virtues of war and put behind us its ugliness and suffering. In peace we shall go forward together to scale new heights of achievement in unity of purpose, in sacrifice for a common good, in tolerance for those of great faiths, of different faiths, and creeds, in bravery to fight for social and economic gains, and in the discipline of good citizenship. We shall move forward in the sight of God as a strong nation in a peaceful world. Do we have any other speakers?
No.
The guest speaker?
Good roll.
Okay, we do have another speaker.
Thank you for coming today. I'm not going to compete with a truck. Again, thank you for coming, everyone. We are American veterans. Today, my voice speaks for the millions of my brothers and sisters who served our nation from our founding to the present time. In war and in guarded peace, protected by our vigilance, we stood fast against foes who would threaten our land. We set aside this day to honor each one who raised his hand and swore to support and defend our Constitution. Every citizen of our republic, regardless of political beliefs, economic status, or creed, owes a debt of gratitude to those who serve. In the words of Lincoln, there's an obligation for every citizen to take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That cause remains, as it was in Lincoln's day, the preservation of a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Proudly we have served throughout our nation's history. We walked barefoot in the snows of Valley Forge and crossed the Delaware with Washington. We crossed the mountains to strike those who threatened our homes at Kings Mountain and Cowpens, and ultimately won our independence at Yorktown. In the oft-forgotten Barbary Wars of 1801 through 1805, our Navy and Marines marched to the shores of Tripoli against the Barbary pirates and gave notice early on that unlike European powers, the United States would not bow to terrorists and pirates. In the War of 1812, we fought on the seas at Bladensburg and New Orleans and many other places, showing the British that our new nation was resolute and would not fold under pressure. In the great westward expansion of the United States and in support of the Monroe Doctrine, we ensured the safety of our citizens and kept European powers from colonizing the Western Hemisphere, thus enabling the self-determination of Latin America during the Bolivarian era. After violent incursions into American territory, we marched with Scott in the Mexican War. We fought in California along the Rio Grande and to the halls of Montezuma. It was there that Marine NCOs and officers earned their blood stripes, worn proudly by every Marine NCO and officer on their dress blues, commemorating the 50% casualties among them in the assault on Chapultepec. In the Great Civil War, our nation was tested by fire and sword, pitting brother against brother in a contest that would determine, again in the words of Lincoln, whether any nation so conceived and so dedicated could endure. On the hill of Little Round Top, men from Maine stood defiant against all odds and said, yes, it can endure. Through the great battles at Shiloh, Antietam, and Chickamauga they stood. In the small, forgotten fights like Ball's Bluff, Chantilly, and Pea Ridge, they fought until at last the Union was preserved and freedom was granted to those held in chains of slavery. In the Spanish-American War, we fought with Commodore Dewey at Manila Bay and charged San Juan Hill with the Rough Riders, virtually ending European colonization of America. Pardon me. When Europe was plunged into the cauldron of World War I, we rose as a nation to fight back tyranny. For the first time, airmen like Eddie Rickenbacker with the Hatton Marine Squadron and other aviation forces took to the air. We broke the line at the Moose Argonne, Chateau Thierry, and Belleau Wood. Our Navy fought and kept the sea lanes open until on this date we now celebrate as Veterans Day. The war ended in 1918. We must never forget. Sigrid Sassoon, the great British World War I poet, so eloquently implored us in his poem Aftermath. But the past is just the same, and war's a bloody game. Have you forgotten yet? Look down and swear by the slain of the war that you'll never forget. When the turmoil of the Depression gave rise to fascism in Italy and Germany and aggressive militarism in Japan, we stood strong. The greatest generation rose, took the fight to the enemy. On the beaches of Anzio, Normandy, Leyte, and countless other arenas, our Army forces fought. In hedgerows and in foxholes, in Sherman tanks, driving trucks, Army forces brought the fight to the enemy and kept our forces supplied. Our Army Air Forces took off into the wild blue yonder and took control of the air to the point that it was said in France in 1944, if American soldier looked up if he heard a plane, but a German soldier looked for cover. Our Navy arose at Coral Sea and Midway and avenged Pearl Harbor. We wrested the Atlantic from the U-boats that threatened supply lines to Europe. Our submarine forces destroyed the Japanese merchant fleet and sunk 2 Japanese carriers at the Battle of the Philippine Sea. Marines stormed the beaches of Tarawa, Saipan, Peleliu, and countless other places. It was said of the Marines who served on Iwo Jima that uncommon valor was a common virtue. Our Coast Guard served valiantly. Coxswains on landing craft guided their craft into merciless fire throughout the war. Our cutters fought U-boats in the icy waters of the North Atlantic. We also served throughout the Cold War that lasted from the end of World War II until the fall of the Soviet Union. At countless SAC bases, remote radar and communication sites, and on bases throughout Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, we stood ready and said to the Russians, "Not on our watch." Now, an independent service of its own, the U.S. Air Force stood ready at a moment's notice to take to the sky. In one of the greatest humanitarian acts in history, the Berlin Airlift, our Air Force supplied the free city of West Berlin from June 1948 through May of 1949, when the Soviets tried to starve the city into surrender. When communist North Korea and China attacked South Korea, our forces fought valiantly. At Pusan, the Army held the line. In Incheon, Marines went on the offensive, and at the Chosin Reservoir, outnumbered and surrounded, brought off the greatest fighting withdrawal in military history. Our Air Force flew their sabers in the first jet-on-jet dogfights in history and came out on top. Our Navy and Coast Guard served, providing naval gunfire, air support, and kept the ground forces supplied. Our forces still stand guard in Korea, providing security to a vibrant South Korea that stands today as a bastion of freedom and prosperity due to our sacrifice. In Vietnam we served. In a war that many viewed as unpopular, we nevertheless answered when our country called. We served often,
without due recognition or acknowledgement in such places as the Idrang Valley, the Mekong Delta, and in Hue. We fought in forgotten places such as the Marketplace, the Rock Pile, and the Ashaw Valley. Our Navy and Air Force pilots flew countless missions in Operation Rolling Thunder, Linebackers 1 and 2. Army and Navy nurses and medical services saved countless lives in a war that many want to forget. For the sake of those who served, we must never forget. When Kuwait was invaded by Iraq, we answered the call. Forces under the command of General Schwarzkopf attacked in a war of liberation that demonstrated the might of the American military and restored freedom to Kuwait. When America was attacked on 9/11, we rose as one to bring vengeance on those who harbored terrorists. Our forces fought in Afghanistan and in Iraq, in places like Fallujah and the Helmand province. We carried the war to the enemy. We still stand watch against those who would try to destroy the freedom that we enjoy. Regardless of the mission, we have proudly served the nation of which we are proud to be a part of. We who serve are grateful to have a home worth fighting for. Some fought on the front lines, in the air and at sea. Some served in supporting roles in supply, administration, and communications. We fixed the tanks and trucks, maintained the engines and electronics. We loaded the bombs and missiles. Regardless of the role each veteran filled, we all have one thing in common. We all raised our hand and said, "I will serve." We all loved our country enough to put our lives on the line. For this service, we as a nation are and will remain eternally grateful.
Don Martineau is a Marine Vietnam veteran and a double Purple Heart recipient. He's going to play for us today. want to thank everyone today for coming and spending this time with us celebrating this ceremony. Also would like to invite everyone to come this afternoon to the VFW ceremony down in South Berwick in the town hall at 2 p.m. and everyone is welcome. And that's it. Thank you for coming.